What up, guys? It's 4Nick2156 here. I wanted to do a video, you know, just saying why I don't, you know, smoke and dip around kids. Since I do smoke and I do dip, I don't want a younger generation to get the idea that it's a good thing to do. Same with vaping. I don't vape, period. I don't drink. I've been doing YouTube videos on dip and cigarettes. That will continue to stay the same. Uh, but when I'm out in public, I don't dip around kids, younger than 21, 21 ish. I don't dip, I don't smoke around kids. If I'm walking around the block and I see some of my neighbors' kids out, I don't smoke. I put my cigarette quickly out, pocket, continue walking. Don't relight until I see that I'm way far away and I don't see any other kids around. Uh, I wish more YouTubers would have that common sense. I wish more people would have that common sense. Dipping isn't as bad as smoking around kids because kids will look up to us older generation and even older generations for that. If anybody watches this video, I don't want y'all to think that I'm against people smoking, against people doing what they do. Just be very, very cautious when you're smoking around kids. I started smoking at age 13, a little bit younger than 13, because I watched my dad. He was a role model. I was smoking in high school. Surprisingly, I met a girlfriend there, or a girl there, that I fell in love with, still to this day. She hasn't seen me in a long time. We just started talking again. I hope once I get back up and running and all that stuff, that I can actually see her fully. Once I get back to Memphis. Uh, but the thing is, and she raised a good thing. She's had a hard time in her life. I've had hard times in mine, as y'all know, because I share almost every hard time with y'all. Of all the girls I've dated, all the drug addicts I've dealt with in my lifetime, I haven't told y'all the full story on a lot of those, but I am going to in the next few videos. I am going to actually tell y'all my life story so maybe y'all can actually take that and not get into the same situations I was in. But like I said, just be conscious about who you smoke around. If it's kids, knock it off. You don't want them absorbing, oh, it's fine because I see an older guy doing it. You might say, oh, yeah, kids have common sense. They do. So do me. So does the older guys. They have common sense, but they still smoke. They still dip. I want to start a new trend on YouTube where we keep cigarettes from underage smokers and dippers and all that. Y'all might see that, YouTube is full of these people that are saying, oh, I like this or this. They're tobacco reviews and all that because that's what my channel is. I've noticed that more and more younger generation is watching these videos. And I think from being 28 myself, and this is the first time I can say that I'm 28, I've been smoking since I was 13, dipping since I was 13. Haven't stopped. I know there are health risks, so people don't leave those in the comments. I already know all the health risks there. But it's at the point to where I start seeing people do, what are they, Juuls and vape. If y'all look at the scientific studies on those, it's one drop of that e-liquid that may have a crack in, the little pod, can give you a nicotine poisoning. One drop. And one of those Juul pods is equal to a whole box of cigarettes. And that is backed up by facts that scientists have done studies over all these vapes, all these things. That it's like smoking a whole pack of cigarettes if you go through one solid thing of vape. But like I said, why I don't smoke around kids that are younger than me, and I don't dip around kids younger than me, is because they're sponges. They're still learning the world. And then y'all might think, yeah, they're sponges, but don't they have, parents that will teach them all this? Yeah, parents teach them some of the things. But where do a lot of people watch? YouTube, Twitch, all these streaming, Facebook. And I mean, who do the kids look up to? It's the older generation. And I just don't want to be a role model that somebody, says, oh, he smokes, so it's all cool. Or he dips because it's all cool. Sometimes people can change the way they live because of dipping cigarettes. In my backstory, I've changed the people I've hung out with. I used to hang out with, wonderful people, but dipping cigarettes have kind of farthered us apart. And I wound up dealing with drug dealers and all this crap. I just don't want anybody else dealing with all this. Like, I've dealt with, I don't use drugs, just so anybody has that wordage. I used to drive people to go get drugs who so-called were my friends. All they cared about was my money. So I don't trust many people just because of that fact. And I'm going to tell you the story, most recent one actually. This girl, she was a sweetheart. I worked with her at my old job. Didn't realize she was a drug addict. Never had any inkling. She literally, I quit that job, went to work for a different place. Next thing I found her this was about 2 years after, I found her sitting on the side of the building. I walked over to her. I said, don't I know you? She said, yeah. It was a girl I knew when I worked for a certain company. And she said, yeah, I got dropped off by my boyfriend. We broke up and all this stuff. And I felt sad for her. I really did. And I said, do you have somebody coming to pick you up? She said, yeah, but he's going to be about 2-3 hours. I said, okay. I took off from my job to sit there with her until her ride came. We got talking, we started hanging out, and then we wound up, what I thought was boyfriend, girlfriend. More like I was a piggy bank, and she was just getting cash out every 2 seconds. for drugs, for heroin, uh, for herself. There's no needle marks on me at all. No needle marks, no vein punctures, nothing. I don't do drugs except for dip and cigarettes. That's the only drugs I do. And I'm going to put it out here to where I hope YouTube sees this video. I want y'all to start thinking about the younger generation here. Do we want them to see, all these things without a warning on there? It's going to make YouTube a lot more miserable for a lot of these reviewers, including myself. But I'd much rather know that I can change people's mind about, tobacco, YouTube review channels, stuff like that. Because this is $1.49. When I was 13, I could get my hand on one of these just by asking a friend to get me one. He was 21 at the time, an older guy. He was a great friend of mine. Still is. He's like a brother to me. He has a wife and kids now, or a wife now. Wish they lived close because I would go visit them whenever I could. Love him dearly. Shout outs to him. Which I'll be sending this video to him once it uploads. So he'll see it. If I could go back in my time, people ask me, would I change a thing? And I would say yes. There's two things in my life I would change. One, I wouldn't have picked up the first cigarette. Two, I would have not dated drug addicts. That's for damn sure. And three, I would have actually come out before it got to be where it is and told this one girl that I loved her dearly. And I loved her a lot. But she was always dating someone that was a redneck wannabe in high school. Then after graduation, we separated. Added her as a friend on Facebook. She started dating this other little prick. Sorry for the foul language. And I just thought, wow, she could have done way better. She could have gotten up in her life faster without him. And without me. Because I would just drag her down. But on the topic of drugs and alcohol and all that stuff, I don't drink alcohol. And here's the reason. And she may watch this because I will send it to her, but if she doesn't, it's okay. I hope she does. I would say about a year ago, I was 27. I was a grill cook. No. I think it was like about 2 years after I graduated high school. I was a grill cook for a certain store, which y'all know the name of. There's nothing wrong with the name or anything. I just don't want to be saying it out loud anymore. The there was a grill chef there. He was the best. He was one of my best friends in life. He taught me how to love, how to cherish, and how to appreciate what I had. He taught me always be confident in what you can do, not who or what you have. And that hit me hard every time he would remind me, because I would get down because of the job. He was an alcoholic. He was an alcoholic since he turned probably 15, from what I hear. And I'll go more into detail about his life in another video, because it is really sad to me. But at the age of 21, no older than I was when I got a job at another place, it's still hard for me to talk about, even to this day. And he's been gone for a while. He was one of my good friends. We would do everything together: clothes, clean the grill, cook. We had the same shifts. But one day, he wasn't there on the grill shift when I was. I walked over to a manager, asked them where was the dude. They said he's in the hospital. So I went to go see him, see how he was, see what was up, because the hospital is right down the street from where I live. At the time. So I went and saw him. His liver was failing. I didn't know how bad it really was. We were joking, we were kidding around, like we always did. He was always in high hope. He had a beautiful fiancée. And then one day after I had visited him in the hospital, I was at work praying that he would get better. And then, lo and behold, we shut down the business, or the company shut down. And we were wondering why. We found out that he had died that night after I had visited. And that was the night that I can say the business where I worked, which was happy, joyful, just there to do a job, get it done, attitude, went out the window. We were all depressed. We didn't even want to work. We could barely look at, the food that we were serving. Managers were even out of it. All employees were out of it, because he had affected all of us. He was just an outgoing guy. I still love him in a brotherly way, because he was like my flesh and blood. He died at the age of 21 to alcohol. I was older than he was. That shouldn't have been at all. Not back then. With me drinking so much energy drinks and dipping and smoking, he didn't do dip or smoke or energy drinks. He only drank a little bit of alcohol here and there, from what I could figure. But I guess it was more than I thought it was. The day we went to his funeral, it was me, two other guys that we were all close to him. We arrived there. I couldn't even go to the casket to look. I felt so much depression that a guy who was 21 drank himself to death. And I'll do a commemoration to him in the next video, so y'all can understand where my feelings have come for him. But that's why I don't drink. Before, me and him, we would used to go get maybe one beer. One beer for me, one beer for him. And we would drink it out there in the parking lot of the place where we worked after our shift. And we would just be happy, kid a lot, hang out, do stuff like that. But that's why I say, with alcohol, with cigarettes, with dip, with any of those other types, think about the people who you leave behind. Your, I hate to use this word, legend that you leave behind. And think about the people's emotions that you have, attached to you before you do any of that stuff. Dip and cigarettes won't kill you in a extreme amount of anything will kill you. But alcohol is one of those drugs that will kill you without you even knowing. You get addicted. You start drinking every day, every hour. And it puts a worry on everybody around you that they might not see you again. One day you might go into the hospital complaining of a kidney pain or, lower ab pain. Next day, you won't be around. Or you might not be around. That's why he touched all of us. All of us cooks, dishwashers, prep cooks, backup cooks, managers, servers, everything. And that is why I look at the younger generation and I say, dip or cigarettes, they aren't that cool. They're addiction just like any other. So any of my videos that y'all get addicted to, dip or cigarettes, don't blame me for that. Y'all can blame me for that. Because I don't want to see any young child, under the age of 21 at least, walk up to me sometime and say, hey, do you have a light for a cigarette? You know what I'll do? I'll grab that pack of cigarettes away from them, pop them in my back pocket, and I'll say, now where did you get these cigarettes? If they say the store, I'll walk in there and I'll say, you just sold an underage kid cigarettes. He just asked me for a light. Anybody who sells kids or gives kids cigarettes that are underage, I look down on y'all. Because I will not ever give a younger kid cigarette or dip. And like I always say, think before you act. Because younger generation is watching us older generation people. Maybe your mom, your father smoke. if y'all are watching this and y'all are younger generation, don't copy us. Be your own person. Outlaw. If you watch Outlaw's dip videos and you think he's cool and all, don't copy. Because if everybody copied one person and they were the exact same, you would almost feel like it's a freak of nature moment. God created us all even. And so this video is basically telling people not to copy older generation kids, teenagers, young adults, that stuff when they're growing up. Because let me tell you, my generation is not one that I want a young kid to be copying. Or even a older generation. And maybe 2 or 3 years younger than me, even, because I've noticed that a lot of them are doing jewels, smoking, dipping, stuff like that. I don't want to see a world where, it's all right for a 6-year-old to be having a cigarette and a jewel or dip or a bottle of booze, maybe, because that just sounds crazy. But like I said, this has gone on to the 30-minute marker. Like all my videos, I try to stay close to there. I love y'all, and I pray that y'all keep safe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.